Eugene, Springfield, Lane County, Oregon. Support our work. Make a donation at STRPOD.com. Thank you for listening to Spent the Rent podcast. And now, here's your host, Patty Rose.
Hello, I am Patty Rose. Welcome to the Spent the Rent podcast. This is episode number 257. My guest today is a candidate for the Pacific Green Party for Congress in Oregon's 4th District, Justin Filip. Justin, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Patrick.
Yeah, so this is neat. We had been talking for the last couple of weeks. You reached out to me through my website and was like, hey, I saw you interviewed Melissa Bird. I'd like to have you, interview me if possible. And I really appreciate you doing so. And then we had talked about doing it. Schedules got a little busy, and we figured that the day after the election would be a good time because you didn't have to really sit on your hands nervously or whatever the expression is yesterday, because you had already pretty much wrapped up the nomination for your party. Is that correct?
Yeah, I didn't have a challenger in our nominating convention. We're going to have 2 nominating conventions, by the way. So for the listeners, we handle things a little bit differently on minor party level. Obviously, you didn't see any Green Party candidates on your ballots. Even if you were a registered Green, because we do all of our nominations a different way. The state doesn't pay for our elections.
Sure. Yeah.
So we timed our spring nominating convention to coincide with the other primary. So Tuesday night, I got the nomination. We also selected our candidate for governor. We got a candidate for Benton County Commissioner and State House District 11. So, but in July, we're going to have a second nominating convention, and we're hoping to nominate more Greens for more offices.
Yeah, I mean, and I've done an episode with Alan Zundel, who wrote a book about the history of the Green Party, and he ran, I think, for Secretary of State. I'm sure he ran for a few things, but him and I became pretty good friends. We did multiple episodes about 4 or 5 years ago. He's out of the area now. I think he's in San Diego.
I think so.
Anybody that, if you have a debt collector that's trying to find him, but he's a really good dude. And, so I've got a little bit of familiarity, and I want to have a chance to give you an opportunity to talk about what the Green Party is all about. If you want to give like a quick overview first, we'll do that, and then we'll touch more on it later.
Sure. I guess, the Green Party in Oregon, we're the only explicitly socialist party with ballot access in Oregon. We identify as an eco-socialist party, and we've been explicitly an eco-socialist party since 2016. But there's room for people in the Green Party that might not identify that way, that maybe just be fed up with the 2-party system in general, looking for a party that doesn't accept corporate PAC money. We're looking to build that third party. Gallup polls show that a majority of Americans want a third party, so we're out here trying to build one for them.
What would you say it would make? What would be the quickest, easiest definition of what makes something a socialist party?
I guess, we're explicitly anti-capitalist, I guess, and the reason for that is because we see sort of the results of our capitalist system and how it exploits both the people and the planet. Yeah, because it puts profits above everything else.
So it's a way that it's a distribution of wealth. I mean, it's like to make sure that the resources are being spread more fairly. I mean, basically, is that kind of a quick overview?
Yeah, we want a government that works for the people. I mean, people get hung up on these titles, socialist, all these other things. It's a boogeyman to a lot of people. To me, it's just about priorities. And to me, it's just about putting the interests of people and the planet before corporations.
That's interesting. We'll talk more about it. And I do think that you and I will probably have multiple conversations. We'll have one where we really dive deep, between now and November, hopefully, where we really dive deep and more just about specifically your campaign and the Pacific Green Party. But today it is the day after the midterm election, and we wanted to focus on Lane County because that's usually, what I try to focus on. So let's talk about the big things that we saw last night. I think the one that really popped out to me, first of all, was the fire levies. The Lane Fire Authority and South Lane County Fire and Rescue levies, they both failed. And I think that this is going to be detrimental, considering that I know that wildfire is a little bit different, but guaranteed the fire departments are involved, and so in some capacity. But even on the daily lives, it's going to be really difficult not having some of the services and some of the cuts that they had to make or are going to have to make, and some of the response times. I mean, I did a podcast with the Lane Fire Authority. Unfortunately, some of the audio we did it live, and there were some technical difficulties, so I pulled it, and I hope that's not why they lost. No, I don't have that big of a reach, but I'm definitely disappointed that it lost. And so, what are your thoughts on the fire levies being, failing both South Lane County and Lane Fire Authority?
Yeah. And I'm sorry, it cut out a little bit. I apologize for my connectivity issues. Hopefully there aren't any others that happen. But the fire levies, obviously fire has impacted our area for, quite a while in recent years, right? We've seen the smoke. It's almost like, fire season is an annual thing these days, unfortunately, with change in climate and other things. So having a plan and having the resources to be prepared to combat fires is, obviously something that's critical for our communities. But I mean, when I look at that result, it was really close. I think these are really hard decisions for people. And I think most people would love to be able to fund all these things.
Yeah, there is a limit.
Personal, analysis of this based on just, anecdotal evidence of people that I've talked to is that, people are tired of working class people always being asked to foot the bill for all this stuff.
Sure. So we need, like you said, we don't want the top, the 1% should just be paying for some of this stuff.
And I think a lot of people across the political spectrum believe that. And whether you identify as conservative, liberal, leftist, whatever, I think everyone's feeling the pinch. And so, we're tired of carrying the burden for when we have much wealthier people that can to do this.
It just sucks because I know who gets hurt too. And so I completely agree with that. But I think that it's frustrating because, it's like, for example, when people are like, well, Elon Musk, he should be getting money, breaks from the government because he's putting rockets into space. And I'm like, I'd rather have my neighbor's house not burned down than have a rocket in space. I don't know. I mean, it's more important to me on a local level. The federal government almost is irrelevant to me at this point because of how inept the current administration is. But I mean, unfortunately, I wish they were inept. They're not inept. They're very powerful and they're very effective in doing things that I despise. So it's a complicated thing. So we're going to focus locally. Speaking of inept, David Lovell, who was the incumbent in the county commissioner's District 2 race, somebody that I've been very vocal against. I'm not a big fan of. I think he's probably a decent human being overall. I don't know. On a local level, these are our neighbors. And so I don't want to be too harsh. And I am kind of kidding around when I say that. And Sean Van Gordon was successful in beating him to take that seat. And I'm happy about that. But there's been a lot of criticism on Sean Van Gordon from people that I actually really take their opinions very serious. I'm going to be doing an episode with James Anderson, who was somebody that actually he's going to come on and talk about his experience with Corey Rodley and with Sean Van Gordon. And I tried to do it before the election. It just the timing didn't work out. But he has a serious story that needs to be told that they really wronged him. And so there's some things that can look into that. Sean Van Gordon is a friend of mine and we've worked behind the scenes, but he's not a perfect person, but not a perfect candidate. Nobody is. But I am very glad that he won because I think that his opponent, David Lovell, the incumbent, was pretty ineffective and was not really somebody that I felt represented the community as a whole. We can talk about that race and before we move on, but I want to give you a chance to talk about the county commissioner. What are your thoughts on that? I mean,
Sure. I mean, I live in Eugene, but Springfield, obviously I'm familiar with the Lovell story and there's like some controversy surrounding him. And it seemed like he was pretty unpopular and he took some pretty objectionable, in my opinion, stances on some issues. And I've also heard, I don't know Sean very well, but I know some people don't necessarily love all of Sean's politics, but preferred him to David. But it is, this is typical, I guess, from my perspective as a leftist, as a third party candidate. Most people, quite frankly, most of these people that are in positions of power, I find lacking. They're not meeting the moment, and it's just degrees of kind of.
Yeah. On my podcast, if you go to my website, STRPOD.com, I did a blog about David Lovell that I was a little coy. I called it American History 26, but it was, I used the X. So it was kind of alluding to American History X because there's a scene in that movie where, somebody's stealing a dude's car and he kills him. And David Lovell was on there's camera, there's photos of it that are easy to find. It was in the Eugene Weekly that he was during the Black Lives Matter protests. He was in front of the downtown businesses with an AR weapon, like his assault rifle. And it's like, okay, I understand that you want to protect your building. And I think that that's really, that's honorable, but are you going to kill somebody over window glass? I mean, it's just insanity. the way that, and I guess that the fear of it is maybe there, but like for him, that was my biggest concern when I saw that. I was just like, there's no going back from this. Like, you're literally thinking that it's willing to take a human life, you know? And so David Lovell was a pretty opposite of my belief system. But yeah, so speaking of the county commissioner's races,
if I may, like, it's just like attempts to intimidate activists and, you know, protesters. Like I was attended an ICE rally in Springfield City Hall, and a couple of young guys showed up with AR-15s, you know, strapped to them. And clearly that was an attempt to intimidate the people that were present.
And I think sometimes people think that the protesters are trying to intimidate. And I think that there is some of that. And so it's difficult, but at the same time, I mean, we're going to be doing an episode, me and a good friend of mine, somebody that you just recently started talking to, we were talking off air about, Blair Conrad. She's going to be coming on Monday, and we're going to be talking about this whole issue with the Eugene Police Department. And so, you know, I don't know a lot about it, and I've kind of like stayed out of the reading about the headlines of that one. And it's basically, there's been some officer caught on a mic or whatnot that was saying some pretty insanely egregious things about hurting protesters, racist stuff. So we'll find out more about that. So keep your eyes peeled for that next episode. But yeah, I mean, that kind of aggression in response. And yes, David Lovell didn't do it, but he would definitely, I mean, what's going to happen if you bring a gun? You better be prepared to use it. You know, I mean, that's, I just don't understand why it needed to be there. You know,
real quick, people might think the Green Party's anti-gun ownership. We're not.
Okay.
You know,
we're neither.
We're not, but we do believe in responsible gun ownership. And I do believe that the mere presence of a gun can escalate a situation. I grew up in the Detroit area, by the way, which is, when I was a kid, was like the murder capital of the United States, you know, and we all kind of have a chip on our shoulder about that because Detroit always got bad press, and we love our home just like anyone would.
Sure.
But, you know, I'm well familiar with, you know, violent communities, or, you know, what leads to criminal activity. A lot of times it's poverty, you know, there's a correlation there. So, but
I think that having a gun,
we got to be smart about when we brandish weapons, and
he was a seated county commissioner at the time. I mean, that's the biggest part that I had a hard time with. It's like, so the government's going to kill the people? Like, that's jury, judge, and executioner at that point. A citizen standing up to protect their house is one thing. And I understand it's his business and it's downtown, but that's public square in my mind. Like, you know, I mean, it's just a really interesting.
A Lane County Kyle Rittenhouse or something. I don't know.
I mean, he would be an elected official. So it was a show to represent. He wanted to get votes from it. That's the thing that makes me mad about it. Is that, and I'm glad to see that it wasn't effective. You know, that people are like, there's enough. A lot of people.
There's a lot of pandering. There's a lot of pandering that goes on, and he was like trying to throw red meat to his base with that.
Yes, one. And so I'm glad that was a bad political decision. You know, and then our community stepped up. So let's move on to the other county commissioner races: West and East Lane County. West Lane County. Sorry. First of all, West Lane County. First of all, was Ryan Senega, the incumbent, was able to defeat progressive candidate, dear friend of mine, Thomas Ura. He's an amazing person. I think Thomas really ran a great campaign. If anybody watched the debate that Lookout hosted, it was really good. Ryan is a good guy, you know, and I think that Thomas wanted to make everybody know that he believes that Ryan is a good guy, and it was a very positive campaign for two people that respected each other. And so, I mean, I think that we're still in decent hands. And I actually like the fact that Ryan, I wasn't able to vote, but I had a sign out front because I don't live in that district, but I had the sign out front with Thomas's name up, and I wanted to support him as much as I could. But that being said, there's a good thing in my mind, especially in a city like Eugene that is very liberal, to have an offset opinion on a board, you know, because we need representation on boards. So it's not the end of the world when somebody that has a minority opinion in that is heard from, whether it's conservative or whether it's activist, far leftist, you know, or, you know, as long as they're not a hateful person, I think that they have a right to be heard, you know, and
right to be heard, but also I don't know that anyone has a right to power. Right. So,
sure.
You know, these county commissioner positions are important, and we're hoping to recruit more Greens in the future. We're growing. And so hopefully we can start, and it's a nonpartisan race, I understand, but we would like to, you know, put some Greens in those positions, because what a lot of key environmental, we're about more than the environment. Let me just preface that, but we still do think the environment is very important. And these Lane County commissioner positions make some very important decisions regarding what we live in. Like, I'll give you an example, Oak Ridge, right? So Oak Ridge, it has, this is not like your liberal or leftist bastion,
No, not at all.
No. If I had to guess, I'm guessing Oak Ridge probably went red, right?
Yeah.
In most elections. But the people do not want that are against TV Butte, or trying to save TV Butte up there in Oak Ridge. They don't want a quarry built there by Ed King, because no matter what your political ideology is, you need clean air and water. And they know that if a quarry was to be built in their backyard, that their clean air and water and the health of their families would be at risk.
Yeah.
A lot of times your environmental sort of awareness, it hits when it comes right in your backyard. Sometimes that's what it takes. So, but the people making the decisions on whether or not that quarry can happen are the county commissioners.
Mm-hmm.
Joe Burney losing his seat
was by like 30 votes.
Swung that vote as far as that issue goes. So,
and just so the listener, when Joe Burney lost, he lost to David Lovell, and that's what we're talking about in Springfield, that now that seat was just won by Sean Van Gordon, which gets it a little bit more to the center, but I totally agree with what you're saying 100%. I want to be clear though, that my point with Ryan Senega is probably more business related. Like the person that I knew that was big on him was a conservative business owner that had a steel company, kind of, or something in that range. And we were talking about like the people's rebate at the time. So these are there's all these different layers that come into these kind of seats, and your environmentalism part. So the point was, I realized talking to this guy that it was difficult for me to support a 3% gross tax on revenue, because gross taxes, even though it allows for some tax dodge if you don't do this, that's not the whole story. If you're going to take 3% from a company that you don't know how much money they're profiting, then there's trouble there potentially. So it's not simple. Now, alluding to what you were talking about with the environmental connection to the county commissioner seats, which is probably the most important part that I've seen in the last, because of fire, and Heather Buck is somebody that was a champion for the Holiday Farms fire. And it looks like she may be, I don't know if it's been called yet. Her opponent, Jake Pelroy, they're so close that it looks like there may be a runoff in November. Did you get the final results? That would be for East Lane County.
Yeah, I'll see if I can find it.
You can try to pull that up. But Heather Buck has been on my podcast. She is a very, she was a champion for the community during those fires. That being said, I've got friends that have criticisms of her that I've talked behind the scenes. Some of the connections, I believe, like her dad is involved with St. Vincent de Paul. And there's some local nepotism kind of screams. I'm not saying that those are my words. I'm just saying that there's a lot of criticism. No matter what, you're never going to make everybody happy. I mean, that the definition of politics is deciding who gets what. So it's pretty difficult. But I do think that Heather Buck is a good county commissioner, and so it looks like she may have been defeated. But I think that they may be close enough to where there's a runoff.
It was like super close the last time I looked. Yeah, I'm trying to scroll through it.
I think that you have to get over 50% in order to win the election in May. And then if not, there's the runoff. So the top two candidates would go. Is that correct?
I know that's the case for city council. That may be the case for county commissioner too. Yeah. I can't speak to it.
Just so people look into that. I can't say if we can call it yet between Heather Buck and Jake Pelroy, but I think if she's defeated, it's interesting because Ryan won in Westland County. He was able to and Thomas came on pretty late in the campaign, and I think Thomas ran a beautiful campaign, and I think Thomas has a bright future. Thomas Hura has a bright future in local governance, and I think that he's somebody that really loves the North Eugene area. I know that much. I mean, and I think that he probably.
I think he's a North Eugene high school graduate, right?
Oh, yeah.
And I remember when Thomas and a bunch of other folks ran a mayoral campaign.
Yeah. They're both seated school board members as well. So. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, and I think Thomas probably his run. This is why. Okay. So for somebody that's in the Green Party, and we can talk about this briefly. Well, the benefit when you run a campaign that is a tall order, the goal is that you make enough of a stance. Of course, the goal is to win, but if you can make enough of an impact getting into the conversation, hopefully those people that do defeat the candidate that had a tall order to win, hopefully they hear what they're talking about a little bit, because I know that Ryan and Thomas were able to sit down and communicate. And so I know that they had a good, connection in that way, that I think that Thomas will be able to pick up the phone and call Ryan. And they were opponents, but that's a really cool thing in politics when you can see people of class, of decorum. I don't want to, I'm just talking about specifically this race. Like there's different ways to go about things, but I really do like it when people can end a campaign liking each other, and I'm sure that they can be kind of bitter and that kind of thing. And I mean, it used to be that was your vice president, so.
Yeah, I mean, we should respect the democratic process, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we could argue if we actually have a democracy truly in
And
this country,
that's fair.
yeah, I can't say I know much about Ryan per se. But yeah, I mean,
know
it seemed
Thomas
like they both handled it maturely and civilly.
I think Thomas brought something to the table, though, and his love of North Eugene. I don't know if Thomas has tattoos, but if he did, I think he would have a North Eugene tattoo. But he's a great dude, and I just really hope the best for him in the future. And if you like, you can go listen to his hip hop music, Gradient, on Spotify, Apple Music. He's an incredible artist. Thomas is just a wonderful human being. So,
I mean, I give him credit for, I think West Eugene is not typically, a blue part of our town.
Yeah,
right?
he did pretty well.
But a lot of times, Democrats or anyone to the left of Republicans often give up on these areas, right? They just feel like they're not worth their time or the resources. And I feel like that not being a part of the conversation in those communities, that's how we get really sort of like far right communities. Because if there's no voice sort of like keeping people in the realm of sanity, then things just get more and more right wing because you're just not there. You've left a void, and who's going to fill that void? More radical right wing voices. So I appreciate that we didn't just like give up on that seat.
100%, right, and just not even try. And so that, and I think that it really did him a service, Thomas, to step up and put his name out there, because I think he showed a lot of people that he's very, very qualified for these positions. I mean, he did pretty well in a seat that was pretty hard for him to win, and in a short amount of time. So, but I want to say that Ryan, I don't think Ryan I don't think our hair is on fire in that seat to have him, but it does make, like you said, these decisions sometimes, like the Joe Berney, David Lovell situation, that swung a lot, and the cadence of the commission was chaos over the last short amount of time, and I think that Lori Trieger spent a lot of time on the county commission board for South Eugene, and I think she's got a lot of people that absolutely love her, and I think she's done a lot of great things for our community. That being said, her and David Lovell, I didn't watch enough to really make this opinion, but I've been told that it was really difficult for either of them to get anything done because of how bitter they were at every meeting, and so. People will at me for that because I think that Lori's pretty beloved, but I mean, she attacked me on a Facebook post where I was talking about Joe Biden being how old he was by just stating the number. I didn't say anything other than I had made a comment one time, and this is alluding to a joke, but it's true. My mom passed away in 2012, and I had said she would be 64 years old today, which I then read back to the comments of support that I received, and I said, when do you stop saying that? You can't say that forever. Like, you're not going to say she'd be 132. I was like, Dwight Eisenhower died on this day, so he would have been 132 today. And then I was like, and just for shits and giggles, when he died, it was in 1969 when Joe Biden was 29 years old.
Wow.
And Lori Trieger comments back, what are you trying to say? And I was like, don't you have stuff to do? But anyway, shout out to Lori Trieger.
Well, she's probably busy talking over her limited time like she did the last City Club meeting that I went
and she's great. I'm just saying, I'm just goofing around. But
opinions vary.
Yeah, this is a tough area of life, the political world.
I'm not a Lori Trieger fan.
Well, okay. I didn't go.
I'll be honest.
I didn't go that far. So looking at the state representative races,
you brought on a Green Party person to talk about.
No, I'm so happy to have you.
I'm just saying, like, Lori Trieger is part of the problem.
I agree. And the way that they were both at it, I'm not going to sit here and take a side to say, well, they're doing it, but that's fine because that's our team. It's like they need to get stuff done and not just doing it for performative reasons. So in the state representative dynamics, Corey Rodley was successful in winning her Democratic primary in House District 7 for the state representative seat. And incumbent Julie Fahey and Nancy Nathanson cruised to victory in Eugene. Do you see a local base that is satisfied with the status quo leadership heading to Salem, or do you think that the real policy battles are still waiting to be seen in November? Also, I want to give a shout out to Kai Fireside, and I'll talk about her and them in a second. So if you could talk about kind of your thoughts on the state representative seats. I know you said you live in Eugene.
Yeah.
So those were pretty much the incumbents, kind of just ran away with them. So do you follow Springfield much? I do personally. Corey Rodley is somebody I would consider a friend. After I interviewed her, I got a lot of heat by the Kai Fireside campaign. And so I got to know them, and Kai is an awesome person. I almost went to their watch party, so So what are your thoughts on the state representative seats?
I can't say I know much about Corey, so but I did get to know Kai a little bit,
Yeah.
and they earned my respect just being out there, being outspoken. I know that they were organizing, or Starbucks union at one point, part of the flock thing. So out there doing the stuff,
and had a lot of fun doing it, and it got a lot of people involved. Sorry to cut you off. Go ahead.
No, and yeah, I was a little disappointed that she didn't do a little bit better. No, again, I don't know much about Corey. Maybe she's a great candidate as well, but my politics tend to be on the further left
pretty
side,
pretty socialist,
push the envelope, and Kai was had the backing of DSA, which DSA locally does not.
I think you got cut off, so we're gonna. I'm gonna just give a shout out to the Kai Fireside campaign, because they did a really good job of running, and there's a lot of people that I think that got kind of mobilized that did feel like they were part of the discussion. And I hope that if they're listening right now, that they don't get dejected in a way to stop, because I think that there's a lot of progress was made from that campaign, and I think Kai has a bright future in this area of government. I mean, they'd spent time up in. Okay, go ahead. You're back. Yeah, you're back.
For a second. I'm sorry. Connectivity thing. So yeah. But yeah, so that was like they haven't backed very many candidates. Kai was one of the few that I've seen in I don't think they backed anybody in 2024 at all. So it was interesting to see how that sort of played out. I
want to tell people that are listening to check out, like I went to Kai Fireside's campaign kickoff, and one criticism I would have is they were running in Springfield and the kickoff was in Eugene, and there's logistics of why stuff like that happens, but I knew that would be a questionable decision long term. That being said, the people that I were to talk to, that I met there and that I talked to, I was just so cool, and the people that were involved in that campaign, it's some just awesome people, and I was stating opinions that were very counter to what they were sometimes talking about, and I was welcomed because I showed up. And so my point is that a lot of times I think it's just really important that we do show up for each other, in a way that we let people kind of like explain why they think what they do. And then we can tell each other if we're wrong or not, but we don't want to like demonize each other so much. So I don't know. I'm really hoping. I'm
exactly.
really optimistic.
Like, I have differences with most people.
Yeah.
Quite frankly, I mean, 1% of the population votes with me.
Yeah.
Roughly,
yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And I share views with you, I'm sure, and some that are starkly different. You seem like a really good dude. And now that I know how to say your last name, it's going to be a lot better. I've been calling you Flip here this entire time. It is Filip, Justin Filip. So but yeah, so I think Corey is good. I think Corey is going to be, Corey is pretty consistent, and I've been talking to Corey since she first ran for city council in Springfield, and I just kind of timed it right and was able to. I think she's been on the show 5 or 6 times, and we have a pretty good relationship, and I think she's a really good person. So I think that we're in good hands there at the state level.
Good.
So moving to the Eugene charter amendments and local accountability, Eugene voters decisively rejected the charter amendment that would have removed the city residency requirement for municipal department heads. What is your thought on this? I voted against it. I thought you have to live in the city to be able to represent the city, in my opinion.
I thought so. I mean, if you want to represent the community, live in the community.
Yeah. I mean, that's how, we had that dude that was Thomas, what was his name? Thomas Moorhead, maybe? One of the guys that was running he's an author. He lives in New York City. He was running because he's like, I lived in Oregon during the summers. And it's like, well, you don't live in Oregon.
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, I can't remember. I got the name wrong, but
yeah, like a New York Times guy.
Yeah, it's like a dude that's like
name is escaping me right now. Nicholas Kristof.
He was one of them as well, but I think he might have actually lived in Eugene more than the one that I'm thinking of. But yeah, it's a big problem. I mean, Cenk Uygur from the Young Turks, which I'm a big fan of I watched their shows, their channel quite a bit in 2016, especially. But Cenk Uygur tried to pull that, where he was running because he saw an open seat and it wasn't in his area, and he was like, well, I can do, and it's like, you got to represent the community you live in. I mean, it's just the way that I feel. So
I think so too. I mean, I don't really understand the argument to want to allow people to live outside the boundaries. I mean, what's that all about? Like, we're not attracting there aren't good enough people that live in Eugene.
I will say this though, and it'd be interesting because if Kai Fireside was here, one of the things that Kai Fireside told me was that I was like, why did you go for state representative when you're a relatively kind of up and coming newer candidate when there's city council seats that are wide open in Springfield? Yeah. And they were like, well, it's because it's the only one I can run for because of where I fall in the city limits. And so there might be a conversation there that me and you just aren't sure on because we just didn't look into it. I don't want to speak for you, but I know I'm not sure.
Yeah.
And so I do think that one is an interesting thing. In a lot of the languages in the way that ballot measures are written, it does kind of make it seem like, well, you don't live there, you shouldn't. And we both have kind of said that, but at the same time, maybe there's an argument to explore that maybe it's like, what about the people that maybe expand the city limit or that, you know what I'm saying? Like the boundaries just a little bit, just because it's like, if you live, across the street, then that person might still want to be representing you, kind of thing. And I
see it a lot. I see it a lot in policing.
Sure.
I see a lot, and we talk about major metropolitan areas about, the police that police those areas. Very seldomly do they actually live in those areas.
Yeah.
So what effect does that have on the policing in that area?
Right. Oh, and I think that there's, my mom used to work for Senior and Disabled Services, and she lived in Salem, and she worked in Albany. And I was always like, why do you want to take that commute every day? And she's like, I don't want to work in the same place that I live because of the services that I offer. Sometimes I can't get through the grocery store, so there's an argument there that I don't know. I mean, I'm not saying that either or. I just think that it's an interesting thing to kind of explore the way that we kind of like think about those things. It's not as simple as we'd like to think it is sometimes. And that's the whole definition of all political things. So EWEB and public utility priorities in the race for the at-large Eugene Water and Electric Board seat, Alexi Miller captured a massive victory. From a Green Party perspective, where public utilities and environmental infrastructure are central to the platform, what should be the immediate priority for EWEB to protect our watersheds and keep utility rates affordable for regular working families?
Yeah, well, I mean, from our perspective, we should, our utilities should be publicly owned by the people, but we're not there. We're not really there yet. So EWEB as it exists, yes, I think I voted for Alexi. I'm hoping that they do a good job. But yeah, they have a lot of impact potentially on environmental decisions and on rates that affect working class people. So like right now, I mean, my utility rates are going up, right? And, I think one of the best things we can do to help working class families in our community is to keep their utility rates down. So I would love to see the board of EWEB explore ways to make sure that they keep rates affordable. And this is kind of connected to like the data center issue that's going on, ongoing too, and the impact that they have on consumer utility rates too. So there's that piece of it. There's the environmental piece, but there's also the rates. And actually someone reached out to me, Sierra Club reached out to me and said, hey, do you have any greens that we can run for EWEB? I said, I wish I did. They like wanted me to run. I was like, well, I can't run for every office at the same time.
So the fact that you said you'd voted for Alexi, I'd like to kind of talk to you about that just briefly, because I had one of their opponents on. I don't know anything about this race. I really didn't. I had Eric DeJara, I think.
Yeah.
I'm saying his name right. He came on. He was really cool. Came to my house, recorded a podcast. That was a recommendation of a friend of mine who's kind of, that's Mike McFarland. Shout out to Mike McFarland, somebody that works for the fire department, in the communications area, and is somebody that's kind of a moderate, maybe even right leaning, but a friend of mine. And so I just kind of, if I give people a chance to come on, even no matter if I agree or not, but tell me why you decided that Alexi should, get your vote,
I don't know those two candidates super well. I'll be honest. It just, in reading about them, to me, it seemed like I might be able to trust Alexi a little bit more when it comes to the environment. The problem with right-leaning people, they might be, very nice people, and you can have a beer with them or whatever. But do I trust them when it comes down to like business interests versus environmental interests?
Right.
I'm just too afraid that those right-leaning people are going to always side with big business. It's kind of what they do.
And even I've made that argument. And so just to say this, to kind of comment on that, I made that argument earlier about how it's important to weigh these different things. I mean, I think it's very safe to say that the environment is more important than somebody's individual business, because the environment affects every single one of us. And so the businesses may thrive and may help the community. But at the end of the day, we need to make sure that we can have clean drinking water. We need to make sure that so I'm with you.
Which we haven't got to yet, but I'd love to talk about Measure 2373.
I think this is the absolute best segue of the history of the Spent the Rent podcast, because I think that was my next question. So Lane County voters soundly defeated Measure 2373, the Lane County Watersheds Bill of Rights. For environmental advocates, this is a tough loss. What do you think misfired on that measure? What is it? What is it? A messaging? Was it a messaging issue, or are local residents hesitant to pass local environmental regulations that they worry might complicate the local economy? So it sounds like you're passionate about this measure. Tell me why this is really bad that it didn't get through.
Well, I guess, just to sort of like connect our previous conversation with, or part of the conversation with this, is that, with our economy is nothing without our environment, right? I mean, that was one of the arguments of the folks that, got Measure 2373 on the ballot, is that, all these arguments about the economy are moot, if we don't have clean air and water. Because one of our biggest parts of our economy is the tourism and, people coming to this area to explore the beautiful outdoors that we've got. And if we don't have beautiful outdoors anymore,
right. What was the bill trying to do? Well, it was called
to establish like legal rights for the watersheds themselves. And yes, I think it was a bit of a misfire on the messaging. I think a lot of people didn't really understand what it was trying to accomplish. They were trying to establish legal rights for the watersheds themselves, basically, just like
like protected forest, essentially, right? I mean, kind of thing.
Yeah, well, we're trying to flip on its head, like sort of the Citizens United thing. They said corporations are people. Well, if corporations can be people, then so can watersheds.
Yeah,
I guess is what we're saying with 2373. It should have its own rights. It's right to not be polluted by.
I mean, and Citizens United is like and it's funny because every time I say this, I always feel like citizens that come together. No, the bill, Citizens United.
I love the way they name these things.
Is the worst legislation, or some of the worst legislation that has hurt the voice of the people more than almost anything that we've seen in the last 20 years. So
Patriot Act, No Child Left Behind, like these names are like, well, who does
the election of Donald Trump?
Who wants to leave a child?
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, and that's I really do look forward to getting to know you better and talking more and more about what is really passionate, why you consider yourself a proud representative of the Pacific Green Party, things like that, because it's things that this community, a lot of people share your values, and I think that they would be surprised that they may not be a Democrat, that they may be more of a Green Party person themselves. From everything that you're talking about today, I can already kind of tell that. So I'm going to try to move on to the next area, connecting local housing frustrations at congressional solutions.
Sorry, I apologize.
You're cutting out, but it's been covered.
I've got some stern words from my ISP provider.
So, hey, I'll give you a chance. Before we move on, we can finish up about the Watersheds Bill of Rights.
Yeah. So real quick, all I was saying was that in addition to sort of maybe people not fully understanding it, I mean, the opposition dumped tons of money into a no campaign. A lot of it was misleading, as always, like these huge corporations, because they don't want to be held accountable. So they dumped tons of money, fearmonger people. Oh, it's just going to be, they're against the fire department somehow, or it's just going to be endless lawsuits, or what, they tried all sorts of scare tactics, and unfortunately it worked. Unfortunately, people bought it. And the other thing I was going to say is, because I was outspoken about it. My chapter of the Eugene chapter of the Pacific Green Party was an early endorser of Measure 2373.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been a vocal advocate for it. I didn't hear Val Hoyle speak about it. I didn't hear anyone in that race, quite frankly, take a position on it. You have to ask yourself, why wouldn't you take a position on that?
Yeah.
My thing is because you didn't see any what was in it for Val. There was nothing in it for Val, so she didn't say anything.
Sure.
Because she didn't want to alienate her corporate donors, because we know she takes corporate PAC money.
Yeah.
So taking a strong pro-environmental stance in 2373 would have potentially alienated her corporate PAC donors. Yeah. I thought if I was in that position, I would use my platform and my bully pulpit to really whip up support for that, to help it pass. Ranked choice voting, same thing. 2024, 100%. Val Hoyle said virtually nothing about.
No incumbent's ever going to support it, and it sucks. Because like I'm a star voting person, big time. I'm a huge supporter of star voting, and once they get elected, they're like, wait a minute, why would I change the system? I will say
exactly. When the system's working just fine for you, you have no incentive to change it.
And it's Val Hoyle. Val Hoyle won by a pretty dynamic margin. So I think that you're absolutely correct in saying like she could have spoke up a lot more, because she had a little bit more wiggle room to use that bully pulpit. I completely agree with you. It's like, I mean, I think she got like 80% of the vote or some ridiculous thing. So it's like, come on now. She was pretty safe in her seat. I mean, she got endorsed by Peter DeFazio, and that's pretty much an end of discussion in this community. You know, it's like, I mean, and I don't think that that's good. And I think Peter DeFazio did great things for our community. But I mean, I'm a big fan of Doyle Canning, and Doyle Canning ran to oppose him. And a lot of people were like, I'll never support her. She primaried Peter DeFazio. And I'm like, so you like dictatorships then? Because you don't want anybody else's voice. You know, it's like that dude was in power for my entire life, you know? And so, I mean,
Democrats don't want me to run for office.
I'm glad
but this is the party that's supposed to be saving democracy.
Right. Well,
do you understand like the irony there? Like,
I think this is a good see, and this is a good conversation that I like to have, because I'm not going to I too register as a Democrat. That being said, I want to have you on my podcast because I don't think that I'm right about everything. Period. I just have opinions that I'm learning constantly. I'm just a human. I'm just one of the voters. And unfortunately, somebody that's really involved in this, somebody like yourself, my vote counts as much as yours. so I think
if we value democracy, we should want all the voices, you know, involved.
That's my point. That's what I'm
participating in debates, you know, et cetera.
Yeah, no. So I'm grateful. So I agree with you is what I'm saying.
I appreciate you again.
Yeah, no, it's really cool to meet you. I look forward to getting to know you more. And Blair, my friend, shout out to Blair Conrad. Like I said before, we're going to be talking Monday about what's been happening with Eugene Police Department. And Blair I kind of purposely stayed out of it a little bit, just as far as reading about it, because Blair is going to come on and tell her opinion on it. And I kind of want to have like a fresh a response to learning about it, because it'll be a very candid conversation. It's going to be a lot less bullet point, you know, kind of thing. And I mean, when you're doing an election recap, you kind of have to, you know, and we're not even really covering as the way that we could, but I just don't think that there's as much stamina or interest for the audience as people think about a midterm recap, you know. So what we're doing today is really cool.
There's a lot to cover, but some of the stuff can be a little dry for some people. I think we're doing a good job keeping it interesting though.
Yeah, cool. Me too. Yeah. So let's talk about your specific seat, and then we'll get out of here because now that the major party primary smoke has cleared, the stage is officially set for the general election matchup, rematch between Val Hoyle and Monique Despain, and then you running in the Green Party, and then there's some other people on the ballot. Is that correct? I'm not sure. There's like 5 parties total.
I don't know who else. We can't file until June 3rd. I don't know if the Libertarians plan on running someone. The Libertarian candidate in 2024 was Dan Ballin, who ran as a Democrat this time. Okay. I don't know if the
really interesting. That's really interesting. To change from a Libertarian to a Democrat is a pretty big swing, in my opinion. But
you'll have to ask Daniel.
We'll talk to them. Yeah. So tell me about, this is your time to shine though. We can hear where you talk about what are your goals, what are your plans, you know, to kind of get your voice out so that you can try to unseat the Val Hoyle, you know, or potentially Monique Despain from being successful in winning. What is your goal in running this campaign for Congress in Oregon's 4th district?
Yeah, I mean, we're trying to unseat power basically and replace people with, I'm tired of begging my elected official to do the right thing. And so I felt like she's left me no other recourse than to remove her from power.
I agree.
I just, instead of begging people to do the right thing, let's just put people in those positions that we can trust to do the right thing. And I just, 1, do not trust Val Hoyle, and 2, I think she's incompetent.
Wow. Yeah, I know. I agree. And I mean, the big thing, I remember, I got his name wrong last time, Anthony Reed. And I'm not going to speak for Anthony Reed because we have different opinions. But Anthony Reed, when he was running for school board, he was in Val Hoyle's commercial. And what I'm going to say is that he was a big believer because he is a huge labor advocate. He is big on labor rights. Mm-hmm. And I have heard, not from Anthony Reed, I don't want to say that, I'm not going to speak for him, but I have heard a lot of people complain that she has not shown up the way that she promised for labor. So
this is the thing with Val Hoyle, because a lot of times she'll say all the right things, and if you don't pay attention to what she actually does, and this is why I just don't trust her.
Sure.
Today she was speaking about the unions, but like, let's take that MOTA thing, right? When she was at the Bureau of Labor and Industries, right, the head of BOLI, there was that scandal about her not releasing emails, etc., around the whole MOTA, which was like a marijuana company. But to me, the part of that story that stuck out to me was that her job was to look out for workers. And she talks about this all the time. Workers have to have a seat at the table, blah, 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 which I agree with her. we have to look out for workers, and the Green Party is trying to build a working class party. But while she was in that position, when she should have been advocating for workers, she was making personal contact with management to advise them on the course of action that they should be taking. So this to me is in direct odds with what that job should have been.
Well, then you can't be a fan of the Trump administration, because they are literally like, they are just fleecing the American people by using the channels behind the scenes to just rip off every single tax dollar they can. So you're having some technical issues, and I think that it was kind of getting through it. But I hope that you'll click back on, because I think you're frozen right now. But I just want to say, for everybody that did, you're great. I kind of got through. I kind of heard everything you said. So okay, we'll see once it reconnects, and I'll give you a chance to kind of give your closing thoughts. But I just want to give a shout out to the people, especially the people that came onto the podcast during this. I don't know if I talked enough about one of the primary people that ran it against Val Hoyle, Melissa Bird. I think that she ran a good campaign. I think that she's a really awesome human being. I really, really, her and I had a cool conversation about, the different perspectives of how we look at identity, and just our racial identities in this experience we have in our lives in Oregon. And as a Native, woman, I think that she's extremely important to be heard. And I think that I push back on stuff about the way that I look at, because I think that there has to be a way that we somehow find a way to celebrate the pioneer experience and the Aboriginal Native experience, in the way that, there's going to be a lot of people that in this, I'm not saying that we all have to celebrate all of it. I'm saying that we all have to understand that there's different people that are going to celebrate different things. And I know it's difficult, and I'm not telling people how to think. I'm just saying that I cannot imagine a time that it's ever going to be the same thing, that everyone's going to think the same thing on these. And so what I will say is, I think it's absolutely vital that we have people like Melissa Bird in the conversation, in representation. We're hearing from people that are Native, that are marginalized groups. I think it's so vital for our whole system, and to hear different people. And Justin, I want to have you in the studio. You're on the road right now, so the technical issues are not whoever you support. I don't know if you use Comcast or Hunter. Comcast, if it was their garbage company, but you're in Portland, I believe, with family, is what you said. And so you're gracious enough to do this remote. We will get you in the studio so that we can make sure that some of these issues don't happen, some of the technical stuff. But
I'm sorry. Normally we try to, I don't know what's going on. I actually just got back into town.
So it is.
I'm gonna have to get on the phone and do some tech support or something. But
hey man, it happens. It really happens. And I think that we'll see when I look back. But I've kind of tried to cover it. I've been doing this a while, so there's not a lot of dead air. So we've done fine. But Justin,
Melissa Bird, if I may,
yes,
she had a lot of support. Yes, Val Hoyle did get roughly 80% of the vote, but also 1 in 5 Democratic voters said that they're not happy with Val Hoyle.
100%.
And in the primary,
there's also a lot of reasons that people do the different ways they go about it. Some people don't want to risk losing in November some of the Democratic party voters. They're like, I don't want to vote for these up and comers, because what if they lose some of these progressive candidates? I'm not saying that's right. I'm just saying that that's some of the reasons that people are hesitant. And that they'll kind of go that direction, where they want to vote for the incumbent of the party that they support. And so you see that. Gotcha. So it is very difficult to beat an incumbent. So hopefully you're back.
Yeah. So she, Val Hoyle takes that corporate PAC money, even though she says she's against the influence of corporate money in politics, she still takes that money. No one's forcing her to do it. This is a heavily blue district. She should be able to win it handily without corporate PAC money, without money from the pro-Israel lobby, but she refuses to eschew that. So, so if folks are looking for a home and someone that will represent them, that is not going to take corporate PAC money, that's not going to take money from the pro-Israel lobby, because here's the thing: Val Hoyle is going to tell you she doesn't take AIPAC money. She's going to tell you she takes J Street money, which is splitting hairs. It's in effect the same thing. It's still a pro-Israel lobby that's propping up a apartheid state in Israel that's committing a genocide. And she funded it to the teeth when the Democrats were in charge.
Yeah.
Now she's taking this position that she's against military spending, very easy position to take when it's the opposition party in charge.
Mm-hmm.
Very easy. This is what they do.
Yeah.
So like, I'm just going to oppose everything the other party does. And then when my team is in charge, I'm just going to go along with everything they do. If Val Hoyle was truly a principled person and consistent and had a moral compass, then she would have stood up to the Biden administration, but she didn't. She just went along with it.
Mm-hmm.
Because to me, Val Hoyle does whatever. When I just observe her career, she strikes me as someone who just goes along to get along, and she'll say whatever she thinks she needs to say to get the next job. I think she has her eyes on Ron Wyden's Senate seat. I think that's where she is trying to position herself for next. So, and this I'm
a big fan of Ron Wyden and Merkley both, and so I mean, and for different reasons and for different ways, but yeah. So I wouldn't want somebody that's not fighting, you know what I mean, to get stuff done.
But this is what happens when you come up through as a career politician through the Democratic Party, because to advance in that Democratic Party, what's rewarded is not taking principled positions. What's rewarded is saying the things that the leadership wants you to say. So in effect, you work for the leadership, and the leadership works for the corporations and the billionaires, because that's who owns and operates that party at the end of the day. So no matter what the rank and file of Democrats think, or, it's irrelevant, because when Schumer and Jeffries are in charge, they set the agenda, and you got to fall in line, or else they kick you to the curb.
I agree. And go ahead. I want to say something real quick. I really, really look forward to then having you on, maybe sooner than later, because in person, because these conversations change come November. And the reason I say that is because I am somebody that believes in a real hated word by third-party people, electability. And so we're going to have that conversation in a good way, because I think that I'm wearing a propaganda shirt. So like the reality is that like the things that you're saying are the things that I believe. But when it comes to the politics of it, I don't know if I get to have my way in being that idealistic. So I want to have this conversation because I think that you're so valuable at it, and so I want to not be coming across like I'm disagreeing. I just think that there isn't a conversation that I've bought into a little bit of electability, and how there's a fear with Democratic voters specifically of losing ground by going too extreme that we then lose to the candidate on the right. And so it's like the left wants something so far left that it becomes the right wins, And so I'm not saying that I think that that's true all the way, but I do think it happens. And so I really think what you're talking about with Val Hoyle is relevant and valid. And I think that you're going to have a good campaign to remind us that we don't have to go with that. She has not won the election. I'm sitting right now with the candidate that she's running against, So
I mean, everything's impossible until it's possible.
That's right, Kevin Garnett. So like, so anything is possible. No, but I just want people to know, I mean, that's what elections are for. And that's why I'm going to try to do more episodes. And that's why I'd like to have you back on, is because I have drank the Kool-Aid about electability a little bit. And I'll have to say that. And people hate me for it.
You're not the only one. You're saying things that represent the views of a lot of people out there.
Yes, and I'm not saying it is just me. My goal isn't to represent myself. My goal as a host is to represent the people that I talk to on a daily basis. I'm a barber, so I have the fortunate opportunity to talk to people from a broad swath. And the progressives will get my ear and they'll bite it off, and I'll listen, and I will go to a lot of the things that they tell me about. I'm like, dude, you're so right. And I kind of go into that. But then I got these people that are telling me about like the bill that would ban hunting. We can talk about that on a later date. That it's probably not true, but there is language in it that is questionable that we need to be careful at what we're doing, So it's just, I know people that I admire, that I have different viewpoints, very much different. I share almost nothing with, that I still think are valuable people. And so it's just a difficult thing. So that will be a conversation.
This is like we're asking people to stretch their minds a little bit and to consider what they maybe have not considered before. So I would love to have
I want to do something really bold. So between now and November, I would like to have an opportunity to interview once a month at least, to where we can sit down once a month. And then that way, I mean, I just want to give you a chance to be heard so that there's enough people not that I'm a big show, but it's numbers that I want to make sure that people don't have to keep voting for Val Hoyle.
Yeah.
And so there's going to be opportunities. So we're going to get out of here for now. Justin Filip is a candidate for the Pacific Green Party, Oregon's 4th congressional district. What's your website? It's justinforcongress.com.
Justin for the number 4, just like the district I'm running in, justinforcongress.com. And there you can kind of see my platform, what I stand for. There's links to my social media. Please follow us so you can learn more about me. But I appreciate you having us on.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And shout out to Blair Conrad, who has told me that she's going to be working on your campaign. And she is a force, and she will be with me on Monday, and we will be talking about the situation with the EPD.
Yeah, she had a press conference. I went down there. We won't talk about it right now, but I just wanted to hear what she had to say. And I didn't even introduce myself as a candidate because it's not about that. It's just about me trying to learn and how I can support my community. And so, yeah, I'll let Blair tell you all about that.
Sure. And she's a good friend of mine. I mean, we've butted heads, and she's somebody that I've learned so much from because of it, because we can get, and then she could tell you the same thing. We can get irritated with each other and still love each other so much that we always come back around and always end up working together on different things. And Blair I was watching and hearing the criticisms that people were giving, like, I can't take somebody with discs in their ears seriously and a bull ring. And I'm like, these motherfuckers. Like, the thing is that Blair has worked on such a litany of different projects. I mean, she worked with advocacy for the homeless. She works with Neighbors Feeding Neighbors. She herself went from homeless to, I think she is about to graduate with a master's degree. I mean, this is somebody that is a great part of our community and somebody that I value and consider to be almost like family in the way that we don't always, I love her always, but we don't always want to like talk. Sometimes we're like, you know what, you're driving me nuts.
Yeah.
And that goes for both of us, because but she's taught me so incredibly much, and I cherish her, and she's going to be in studio on Monday. And I'm pretty sure I'm going to have Jetty Eddy on, which is awesome, because that is an activist in Eugene that is one of the absolute most important people in the conversation for Eugene. So
we love Jetty too. Yeah. And I'm just getting to know Blair a little bit. But she spoke highly of you when I mentioned I was going to be talking to you. And I think these conversations are great, and I'm glad you're facilitating them.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So Justin Filip, we will talk again soon.
All right. Thanks so much. Take care, everybody.